There was a time when the waters of the lagoon seemed like the farthest edge of the known world, a vast expanse teeming with mud and silence, where the land sank under the weight of brackish water and the winds sliced across the horizon like thin blades. No one could have imagined that right there, among those reeds and marshes, one of the most extraordinary cities ever conceived by humankind would rise. And yet Venice was born not from ambition, not from glory, but from necessity. It was the 5th century, and the world was changing. The Western Roman Empire was collapsing, and barbarian hordes swept mercilessly across the peninsula. The Visigoths, the Huns, the Lombards, hungry peoples in search of new lands to conquer. Inland cities like Padua were looted, burned, and destroyed, and so people fled. They fled toward the sea, toward the lagoon. Music, the first dwellings were nothing more than makeshift shelters, huts built on stilts driven into the sand with wooden trunks. But they were safe. The invaders did not know those waters. They had no boats. They did not dare venture into that liquid labyrinth. The lagoon protected them, and so, year after year, shelter after shelter, a community was born, then a village, then a city. But how do you build a city on water? The answer is one of the marvels of human ingenuity. To make the lagoon's small islands habitable, the Venetians drove millions of wooden piles into the ground, especially alder, a tree with remarkable resistance to moisture. The piles were cut, shaped, treated, and driven deep into the mud until they reached compact layers of clay. Submerged in water and deprived of oxygen, the wood did not rot, it hardened. It was like carving invisible foundations beneath the surface. On top of these piles, horizontal beams were laid, and above them, platforms of Istrian stone. And so, little by little, the foundations of Venice were born, not resting on the earth but suspended in time. Upon these foundations, the first true houses began to rise. No longer temporary huts, but structures designed to last. The Venetians mainly used fired bricks resistant to humidity, along with wooden beams to support floors. The most exposed and vulnerable parts, such as the bases and edges of buildings, were clad in Istrian stone, white, dense, nearly waterproof, perfect for resisting salt. The houses were narrow and tall, often with multiple floors to maximize limited space. The lower levels, more exposed to water, were used as warehouses or shops, while families lived on the upper floors. Facades opened onto canals with arched windows, wrought iron balconies, and simple yet elegant decorations. Every house, large or small, reflected the ingenuity and adaptability of a people who had learned to build not against the lagoon, but with it. Music, but Venice was an archipelago. Many islands separated by hundreds of canals. How were they connected? At first, Venetians used boats, even for just a few meters between streets. Only over time did they begin to build real bridges, initially wooden, simple, often movable. The most famous of all was the Rialto Bridge, but at first it wasn't even a bridge. It was a ferry, a floating bridge made of boats tied together with planks laid across them to cross the Grand Canal. Later, as the city and trade grew, a wooden bridge was built in the 10th century. It was narrow, unstable, and collapsed several times. In 1310, it was partially burned during a revolt. In 1444, it gave way under the weight of a crowd gathered for a public event. In 1524, it collapsed again. Each time it was rebuilt, always in wood, always fragile. But Venice never gave up on the water. It sought a definitive form, one that could withstand time. Finally, in 1591, a permanent stone bridge was constructed with a single bold arch, the Rialto as we know it today, a symbol of Venice and a miracle of balance between water, stone, and beauty. To support it, over 12,000 wooden piles were driven into the lagoon floor, an invisible army beneath the water that still bears the weight of one of the world's most iconic architectural wonders. The city developed like a living organism, with canals instead of streets and bridges instead of intersections. Every element was functional yet harmonious. It was not built to dominate nature, but to coexist with it. Every stone, column, and arch told the story of this fragile dance between humans and water. At the center, like a beating heart, stood St. Mark's Square, But at first, it was nothing like we see today. It was just an open, irregular space dotted with gardens, huts, and small wooden buildings. A canal crossed it, and the area resembled a dirt field more than a proper square. There was no golden basilica, no elegant arcades. Only later, with the arrival of St. Mark's relics and the growth of the city, did the space begin to transform. The canal was filled in, surrounding houses were demolished, and a more orderly, solemn environment was created. Slowly, the square took shape as a symbolic place, though still modest. Nearby, a simple wooden tower was erected, useful as a lookout and signal for those arriving by sea. That tower would grow over the centuries into the Great Bell Tower of St. Mark, a symbol of the city. At that time, Venice was still young, and St. Mark's Square was just the beginning, a rough core of what would become the heart of the Republic. Yet even then, it was clear that space would become the center of power, the place where the city would make its voice heard. For centuries, Venice remained isolated, hidden, almost shy. But then something happened that changed its destiny forever. Trade. The change came suddenly. The sound of ropes, wet wood, the scent of spices. Venetian ships crossed the seas loaded with silk, pepper, purple dye, and glass. Venice was no longer a refuge. It had become a mechanism of the world, a vital crossroads. The streets filled, shops flourished, markets buzzed with different languages. Every day something arrived, and something departed. The real turning point came in 1204. During the Fourth Crusade, the Venetians conquered Constantinople. It wasn't planned, but it happened. And when they returned, they brought the unimaginable. Columns, statues, gold, bronze horses. Treasures dismantled piece by piece and reassembled in the lagoon. They were not just spoils. They were symbols, building blocks of power, marble declarations to the world. We are the heirs of Rome. As prestige grew, so did the city. The arsenal expanded like a silent giant. Shipyards, warehouses, workshops, where time meant labor and labor meant power. Ships were built like loaves of bread, one a day, it was said, a revolution in mud. And with each ship, a palace. Along the Grand Canal, facades of stone and color emerged. Arches, windows, marble from across the world. These were not just homes, they were statements. Venice had no natural ground beneath its feet, so everything had to be calculated. Every space, every canal, every balance carefully maintained. It was a city living on a thin boundary between water and mud, stability and collapse. And yet it worked. It worked because the Venetians learned to govern it like a complex machine. They built an ingenious hydraulic system to manage water flow and limit the effects of tides. They understood that water could be an ally if guided. They modified canals, opened passages, narrowed inlets when necessary. Every flow had logic. Even drinking water absent in the lagoon was ingeniously collected. Large underground cisterns filtered rainwater through layers of sand, storing it in protected wells. Fresh, clean water, available even in the middle of salt. Then there was the simplest and most troubling issue, waste. Venice had no modern sewage system. Buildings had latrines that emptied directly into the canals. Everything ended up there, food scraps, waste, refuse. But even this was accounted for. The tides, twice a day, cleaned everything. Water flowed in and out, carrying it away. The sea was the city's silent cleaner. It was a primitive system, yes, but it worked. Venice was not built only with stone, but with patience, knowledge of currents, and constant maintenance. Every day, workers dug, repaired, reinforced. Every house, bridge, and foundation had to be monitored. The city could never stop. And yet, it was never chaotic. There was an invisible order. Perhaps that is what makes Venice unique. It was never built to impress, but to endure. Yet danger did not only come from below. On July 14, 1902, St. Mark's Bell Tower suddenly collapsed, shattering under its own weight. No one died, but the city held its breath. 10 years later, it was rebuilt, exactly as it was, proof that Venice does not surrender. Then came the water. On November 4, 1966, the tide flooded the streets, rising nearly 2 meters above sea level. Gondolas in St. Mark's Square, shops submerged, mosaics soaked in salt. That day, Venice understood. The sea was not only an ally. A new defense was needed. Thus was born MOSE, a system of mobile barriers at the lagoon's inlets. Massive engineering works, steel gates rising from the seabed to close off the lagoon when tides exceed critical levels. Construction began in 2000. After tests in 2020, today these barriers rise whenever needed, holding back waves that once would have flooded the city. An unprecedented engineering feat, built to stop what once seemed unstoppable. Venice still breathes, but the breath is short. Each year, the sea rises a few millimeters. Every building tilts ever so slightly. And yet, at sunset, when the domes of St. Mark's glow pink and the water gently touches the foundations, the city still feels suspended between dream and reality. Every pile, every stone, every barrier tells the same story, of a people who never accepted the impossible. Venice is not just a place. It is proof that beauty can arise from fragility, and that ingenuity, when guided by necessity, can become eternal poetry. And so, from mud and fear, an impossible city was born, and yet, it is real. If you want to keep traveling through stories and extraordinary places, subscribe to the channel. The next journey is already waiting on the horizon.